Hey, what's up, guys? It's Amir and welcome to another episode of Real Estate Agent Rehab.
Hey, everybody. Welcome to our episode 22. My name is Vance, Vice President of Agency here.
So, we'll go ahead and get started on this. What we're seeing and what's going on right now is very interesting. We're not seeing a lot of people show up to the offices or show up to events or anything for that matter. Everybody's kind of out in their own world, and it's hard to wrangle everybody in right now.
There seems to be this concentrated effort of work from home, or not even work from home, work independently, which I can appreciate. And I appreciate the whole independent vibe, but the real estate world relies on interaction. With one another, you know, and case in point, I had an agent I haven't spoken to in a year call me 2 days ago, and she said, I'm looking for a house for my boyfriend, giving me the whole rundown. Do you know anything? I said, you know what, as a matter of fact, I have a pocket listing right across the street from where you're saying, and I showed it last night, and it looks like they may buy it. Right? So it's like, if agents aren't talking to each other every day in the office and doing that, we're missing out.
I think it's all stumbled from COVID and like working from home, and it kind of start putting everybody on this like independent path and not coming to the offices and things like that. And we kind of created the industry now full of introverts as opposed to realtors who are very much extroverted and want to be around people.
Yeah, now we have an industry full of introverted extroverts where they all want to stay home, but they do a business that everything has to do with the public. And it's a very difficult thing for a new agent to kind of wrap their head around where they need to be. Do they need to be in the office, or should they be working from home like the experienced agents are, or the end result is, I've always found, show up to the office and things will happen for you.
Because if you're surrounding yourself around people who are on the same mission, and you can motivate each other, talk to each other, talk through certain situations. There's a manager or a broker on staff of there. Then you have these opportunities that you don't have at home to get best practices or work through their different things.
This career is about creativity, right? Whether or not it's financial creativity or, getting a client into a home or something like that. And creativity works in synergy of talking to people, talking to individuals. What do you think about this? How about that, right? And as you start to build that, you start to, the real picture shows up. But when you're just trying to do it on your own, it can be a little lopsided. And I think that's what's really kind of happening, within the industry. We're seeing a lot of people kind of working in that world where they're just worrying about their business and they're not worrying about the whole picture of what's happening.
And the one thing I can relate this to, which I think is a good example, are people going to the gym, and dealing with losing weight or whatever. And a lot of people start off, maybe they've been going to the gym and they were doing really good and they fall off the wagon. And then, so now how do we get agents to get back on the wagon and get back into the offices and get back on working on their businesses and doing everything they can possibly to grow their businesses and do this? Because what's inevitably going to happen is, if you're not doing business, you're not going to want to pay your dues. You're not going to want to pay for things. You're not going to pay for marketing. You're not going to be motivated, and you're going to think, well, it's too hard, right? It's too tough right now, so I'm going to step away from the business. And that's what, personally, I've been seeing as a broker, is a lot of agents that are stepping away from the business for this time and taking some time off to see what happens.
Yeah, I've heard that.
Right.
Going to take a couple weeks off, couple months off. I think, obviously the only way to reset is to actually hit that reset button. And conveniently, we're coming up on a reset button. It's called New Year's, okay? And we all reset to zero. So even our top producers in the office, everybody starts 2 weeks from now at zero, right? And where do we go from there? And you and I have discussed it over and over and over again. I've discussed it with everybody. Business planning. that is your reset. That's your jump off. Mm-hmm. If you're just walking into January going, I hope next year is better than this year, with no plan, how is it going to happen?
Well, now the other thing is, how do we even get agents to want a business plan? Right? How do we get them out of that? And I think people have to like dig deep and think about, what is my motivation for this? Why am I doing this? And and there might be agents that you guys have been doing this, and maybe this year has been tough, and there's been changes in the industry, and you've been discouraged, or maybe you've had health issues, or maybe you have personal issues or whatever going on. And how do we get back into it? And business planning is great, but we have business planning coming up for our office, and it's like we have hundreds and hundreds of agents, and then we have a small group that's signing up for it. So how do we get what is going on with these agents, and how do we get them into want to work their business?
That's a difficult question to answer. What we can do is we can look at why you would business plan, right? And the idea is, if you and I are going to go to New York, right? We both know where New York is. We both have a pretty decent idea of how to get there, okay? But we wouldn't think about leaving for the trip tomorrow without a map, without a road map, and knowing, okay, we're taking this road to this road, we're getting off here, and we're going to stay here. We have our trip planned out. Right. That's what a business plan is.
Yeah.
All right. If we said we were leaving for New York with no plan, no map, no money in our pocket, no gas, we're just dreaming, right? And everyone waves goodbye, and then a couple weeks from now, we're not there. If an agent comes into the business today and they're not business planning, and they're not saying, hey, where do I want to be a year from now? I really need to question their motive for being in the business. Because now it just sounds like they just want to be in something if they're not willing to plan for the success of something. And that is what I'm talking to agents about every day. Do you really want to be in this business? Because if you're not even willing to plan, where is the desire?
Yeah. And that's when we determine, is it a full-time agent, part-time, sometimes agent? What are we working with here as brokers and managers, or mentors and coaches and things like so? Having that roadmap is great. Getting people to look and want to open up and look at that roadmap is huge. But I think once we get into it, and let's laying out the roadmap, and then it's breaking that all down, looking at the work you have to do, and then from there determining, can they consistently show up to do that work?
Yeah.
Right? And are they going to make this thing happen? And so I think it's just all baby steps of slowly, little by little, carving out that time to just get a commitment from agents to say, okay, I'm going to work on my business just an hour a day. 1 hour a day, I'm going to do social media posts. I'm going to make some calls. I'm going to call my sphere of influence. Maybe I'm going to do some door knocking. Maybe I'm going to send out some mailers just to work an hour a day, and then kind of build from there. And once the little wins happen, I think then the motivation and the excitement occurs, and then we can get more out of people. But getting the people to that a little initially show up, it's like, what do? We have parties.
I think what we need to do is we need to we as an industry and as individual brokerages need to create more expectation from the individual agents that we bring in. Like, I expect you to blank, and whatever that expectation is. A brand new agent, I expect you to close 2-3 houses this year. With 12 months in front of you, you should be able to do 2 or 3 houses. A second year agent should be at 3 to 6 houses, kind of working in those numbers. How every brokerage does that and what we hold them to, that kind of changes things. But are we communicating? As an industry and as a brokerage, are we communicating our expectations, or are we just inviting and hoping?
And what's interesting too is that you would think, okay, well, given the fact that we're not seeing people in the offices, we're not seeing the engagement from agents that's going on, typically or historically, you would think that the numbers would be down, right? And we were thinking, okay, considering that we're not seeing agents come in the offices, we're not seeing agents RSVP for things, even RSVPing for like nice, fun parties and holiday parties. It's funny to see how people are not engaging in those things as well. The numbers should be down. And then we were going through the computer before this and looking at the numbers going, well, prices are at an all-time high now.
Yeah, they're kind of right there. Now, but
and the numbers are like the sales volume is high.
So what does that do for us?
Yeah.
That means agents who've been doing their business are doing their business.
Mm-hmm.
New agents aren't breaking into this business.
Mm-hmm. Exactly.
They're getting shut out.
Mm-hmm.
And they're getting shut out because they're not showing up.
Mm-hmm.
This business is easy to break into if you show up.
Mm-hmm.
Right? You can cold call your way into any market. You can door knock your way into any market if you're showing up. But if you're not, the same people are going to continue to get the same business. And I think that's exactly what's happening.
Mm-hmm. And there's a consistency too with that, because people might show up and they might not show up enough.
No, you got to show up every day.
Every day,
this is
hours
work.
a day, and you're
work.
building, you're planting seeds.
You know, I laugh about it because I talk to agents all the time. You know, if you show up to the office 4 to 5 hours a day, every day, and consistently work 4 days a week, you're light years ahead of of what most people will do. That's barely a part-time job. And you and I would consider that full-time.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Where I don't know what else you would be doing, considering like the money that it costs you to do this business.
Mm-hmm.
It's not cheap. I mean, you know, I just paid $600 to, you know, what it was, $600 for the renewal, $400 for your license, a couple $100 everywhere you turn, and it's $1,000, $1,200 at the end of the year. Who's got money like that if they're not making money consistently? And I ask you, because you have a lot more agents involved with that. What do you see in that?
Ooh, it's crazy because we charge, you know, you have your monthly dues, right? You know, transaction fees and all this stuff. But I'm watching agents that are paying their dues, you know, still signing up with the boards, paying their MLS and all that stuff, that just have, you know, little or no production, and they're just hanging on, thinking that, you know, maybe something will pop their way, you know, whether it's going to be a friend, family member, maybe their own transaction or what have you. So there's a lot of agents in that pool.
But even now we've got this whole new commission discussion going on where I'm seeing
there's a change.
Yeah, I mean, I'm really seeing like the day of, you know, oh, you're my family member, I'm going to buy a house from you, out the window, because you're my family member. Oh, let me sit down and tell you how you're going to pay me.
Mm-hmm.
Well, then maybe I should hire a professional.
Well, that's the thing, is that I'm not seeing, in all the transactions that we're doing, I'm not seeing buyers that are paying compensation. And what I'm seeing is, even with my own listings, is that when sellers are not paying compensation, offers aren't being made.
Oh, I've closed a couple.
You know, I from what I've seen so far,
we've closed a couple so far in the past 2 months where buyers were paying their fees.
I haven't seen on any of my stuff, and I haven't seen what's gone on, you know, through escrow. I don't see that, but as much as you might think that it could happen, I think predominantly sellers are still paying the commission. I mean, majority are.
Yeah, but again, they're not paying it. They're simply netting it out of the gross. Right.
Well, I mean, however you want to call it. I mean, it's coming out of their proceeds. That's
what they're doing.
Right? It's coming out of the proceeds. So with that said, you know, has that discouraged people from actually doing the business? I don't know if we're totally there yet, because I don't think as many people are doing business. And so it hasn't really affected the majority as of yet.
Right.
And I think the strong ones are the ones that can negotiate and get those things done and get the compensation paid.
Absolutely.
Whether it's from the buyer or whether it's from the seller.
Yeah.
I think it's predominantly seller biased.
But again, the family dynamic is going away.
Well, to list,
you know,
no. I mean, we're in the middle of a deal right now where, you know, the seller is paying the buyer's agent just the basic broker fee and TC fee, so they could get a lower price and then make that deal happen. They credit back to their family members.
Right.
You know what I mean? So like agents that may have another job and they're doing this part-time and they're just helping out family. I'm seeing that.
And that's not doing anybody any good.
No. I mean, well, it's doing something for the buyer and doing something for the seller, where the seller gets to save money.
It's not doing anything for our industry. So now you have somebody who comes in and bastardizes the industry, where they say, okay, I can do this for free because I'm making money someplace else.
Mm-hmm.
And that is very sad. And if you are doing that as an agent, you should stop.
And unfortunately, that's the majority of agents, or part-time agents, that are doing that.
Yeah.
Because, and they're the minority, or the 10% of the 90-10 rule, are the ones that are doing that full-time and not doing that.
Yeah, the professional agent does their business and doesn't shortfall it by saying, well, I made a couple bucks at my last job, so I don't have to charge this. Like, come on, like, what are we doing here? Are we in business or are we not? I mean, could you imagine an attorney saying, I don't have to charge you $600 an hour because I have a paper route, right? And I can pay my bills off that. Like, it's just silly.
Well, this is also family, So what do you do with family, right? Do you charge the commission? I mean, that opens up a whole other topic, right? Do you charge the commission to your family, or do you not charge the commission to your family?
This is about bouncing back. I mean, you want to get into who we charge commissions to and who we don't charge commissions to. We can go there, but bouncing back, you got to get to work. You got to figure out what your business is going to look like, and you got to start working towards it. If you're going to start saying, okay, I'm going to work for family for free, but I'm going to charge other people a commission, well, I want to be your family member, because, I mean, family or not, everybody needs to eat. And if you're just saying, okay, I'm going to work with family, I'm not going to charge them, well, if you didn't, they would be working with someone else and they would charge them. So you have to be realistic in that manner of saying, I can't work for free, because everybody gets paid off what we do. Right? And, you have an agent who charged all the fees for everybody else, but not their own. Right?
Yeah.
That's upsetting.
Yeah. Well, I mean, when I work with my family, predominantly my mom, she's like, no, I have to pay you. Like, you don't work for free.
Right.
So I respect that. But, there's a lot of agents out there that do the latter of the two, and they won't charge. And, obviously that can affect things. But
know your worth.
Yeah. 100%.
That's what it comes down to. Know your worth. And no matter who you're doing it for or what you're doing, you're doing a service that is commissioned sales. And if you decide to waive your commissions, that's your business, but don't put that on the entire industry. Like, that's an individual thing. But again, I don't see that really taking effect. Once people start really explaining why you're hiring a buyer's broker, the fact of hiring your niece or nephew because they need a deal, I think, is going out the window, because people are going to start really looking at, well, I want a professional to do this for me.
Yeah, I mean, there's a fine line there, because they pass the exam, they're realtors, they pay their dues, and technically they can be called a real estate professional. Do they have the experience that other people do? That's another story, and we see that sometimes. Yeah. We see that sometimes where they go directly to the listing agent.
Right. But now, what we have now, though, is we've got this buyer broker meeting, where it used to be, I want to buy a house, I'll show you a couple houses, and you never discussed it. Now you actually have a meeting, a discussion prior to going out, and that's what's really kind of changing the dynamic. A lot of agents are very, very concerned about having those buyer broker discussions, which, to me, it's just like a listing agreement.
Oh, 100%.
And it's the same discussion. So what happens, though, is a lot of buyers brokers have been nervous about listing presentations, so they've stayed working with buyers.
Right.
Now they have to do this presentation for their buyer, and they're like, "But I have to ask him to pay me money." It's like, well, I've been asking this person to pay me money my whole life. Now you just have to ask this person. And so the idea behind it is there. I mean, and it's so simple. Be a buyer's broker like a listing broker is a listing broker. Get as many buyers under your contract as you can, just like a listing. If I had 6 listings, I'd be ecstatic. If I had 6 buyers signed under contract, I would be equally as ecstatic. Okay, that changed everything, because it used to be, buyers are liars, right?
Yeah. Well,
that's out the window now. So it's really about focusing in on where you want to go, and getting back to the reset. Who do you want to work with? Do you want to work with buyers? Do you want to work with sellers? because now they're almost of equal value.
Yes and no, because on a listing that the seller will pay a commission. Mm-hmm. Working with a buyer, you don't know if the buyer has the money or the funds to pay your commission.
Well,
and what do you do in those situations where buyers? Well, I'm pretty strapped. All I have enough is for my down payment. Like, I can't afford to pay you a commission. So if the seller's paying you a commission, I'll work with you.
Great.
Right. And so what do you do with those guys?
You add your commission on top of whatever offer they're making.
For the seller to pay?
The seller to pay.
Okay. But what if the seller says, no, I'm not paying?
You write your offer. All right. Do we go into this?
I mean, we could. I mean,
right. I'll tell you exactly how to do it. Right? You write an offer, and you say, so it's $1 million offer. You say, okay, $1 million, seller to pay buyer's commission. Mm-hmm. Okay? They come back and they say, at $1 million, we're not paying buyer's commission. So, okay. Will you pay it at $1 million? But you'll take the $1 million. They say yes. Okay. I'm going to give you a new offer. I'm going to say $1,020,000, and I'm going to take a 2% commission.
Mm. Okay.
Done and done.
And in the end, the buyer's paying for it, but it might be wrapped into financing or whatever.
That's the way it works.
Okay.
Now watch this. Take that $1 million deal. Say, okay, Mr. Buyer, Mr. Seller, I want you to pay a commission. They say, I'm not going to pay it. It's got to be over $1 million. Say, okay, I'm going to give you an offer for $1,020,000. Buyer, seller to pay commissions. They agree. The property comes in and it appraises for $1 million. Now what?
You got to negotiate again, right? I mean,
well, you're in a situation now because you're at $1,020,000. Client has agreed to pay the commission. So no matter what the dollar amount is negotiated down to, they've already agreed to pay the 2% commission.
Right, but the buyer has to be okay with the fact that they won't be able to finance that additional $20,000, right? And so the buyer has to determine if they're okay with the deal now because they won't get the financing for the full amount. So they're going to have to come out of pocket with that $20,000,
that's right,
which would be your commission. And so the deal could unfold at that point.
In a minute.
Right.
Welcome to hiring a professional,
right,
and not your niece, nephew, aunt, or uncle. Because this just got very serious, and we're talking about big dollars. We're not talking about a couple $1,000s here or there. Mm-hmm. We're talking about $20,000, $30,000 usually.
Oh yeah, especially with the size of transactions that are here.
So that changes everything, and that's just a quick discussion on what we're dealing with right now. And we can get really deep on these things. Now we have new forms that are coming out this mm-hmm. year for California Association, and I'm sure across all associations we're getting new forms. This is something we as an industry need to really sink into and re-energize with learning, refocusing on our business, mm-hmm. where our business is going. And something I would urge every agent to do, think of yourself as an independent broker, because you are, right? You're an independent brokerage owner, sort of. Would you hire yourself again? Would you give yourself that raise that you're asking for? Or would you have a conversation with yourself about showing up and working? Mm-hmm. All right. And, as an individual, I go home every night. I look in the mirror and I ask myself, did I perform on the level that I would expect mm-hmm. an agent to perform on? Some days it's yes, some days it's no. The funny thing is the days that it's yes, those are the good days. Mm-hmm. Right. And when we actually do what we should be doing, things work out very well. It's when we don't.
And then this goes back to why agents are be coming back into the offices and working. That's because right. If you're working on yourself in your business, you're getting the training, you're doing the research, you're getting that experience with maybe other buyers that aren't your family members or friends or what have you, then you're going to earn that experience and that street cred to be able to do those deals and be able to compete with experienced agents.
Yeah.
And so that's another reason why you need to stay fresh and get yourself in the offices and do that. And I hope that with the New Year's resolutions that our agents are starting to do that. And I'm sure I'm not the only broker complaining about agents coming in or not coming into the offices. I think it's at least in this area, something that's
it's industry wide. It's
industry wide situation. So getting back to that, what do we do? How do we motivate?
We're not getting political, but look what they're dealing with right now. They're talking about bringing everybody back in to government. Mm-hmm. They're saying like 5 or 10% of government is showing up on a daily basis. Mm. They're like, no, everybody needs to come back to the offices, and they're signing contracts saying they don't need to come back for 5 years.
Oh wow!
So think about this is it. It's just a mentality that we all need to get over, the fact that we can't do this alone. Mm-hmm. Right? You just can't be successful without any help. Right? Mm-hmm. You need synergy. You need people around you. Mm-hmm. You need that environment.
Exactly.
And environment is what breeds success.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I guarantee there are agents that are watching this and that are in this situation where you're not where you want to be. And this is where we have to take a look at ourselves and our situations and going, am I doing everything possible to help grow myself as an agent, as a broker? Am I taking the time in this? Am I putting in the efforts and the hours? Like I said, relating this to a gym or losing weight or whatever, are you putting in the time? Are you eating the right things? Are you doing the right things? Are you surrounding yourself around the right people? Yeah. And that's another thing. If you're just going out and having fun and not focusing on your businesses, are you going to do any business? So this is where you have to look at yourself, look at what you're doing, and take that time to do it, to then step yourself back in to this game. Because looking at the numbers, guys, the median price is at an all-time high. Sales volume is at an all-time high. When we were thinking, given the fact we're not seeing agents in the offices, that the numbers would be down, but they're not. So there's money to be made out there. The question is, are you showing up to do this?
Yeah. To use your gym analogy, I love that. I use it a lot in prospecting, where if you were to go to the gym at 8 o'clock in the morning and leave at 5 o'clock in the afternoon, right? 9 hours at the gym all day, hitting it hard, right? Cycle class, yoga, lifting weights, doing the whole thing. When you got home that night, could you stand in front of the mirror and expect to see any sort of result?
Over time, yes.
No. That day.
Oh, that one day? No.
No, absolutely not. 8 hours, you wouldn't get anything. You'd probably be hurt.
Probably be really sore.
and the next day, you're probably not waking up and going and doing it again.
Right.
Okay? If you took that same effort and you broke it up over 8 days, at the end of an 8-day cycle, if you looked in the mirror, you'd probably expect to see some sort of movement, some sort of difference.
Right.
Okay? The idea is task over time. Okay? It's momentum is built in consistency, not in one big lump sum. So when you sit down and you try to prospect, and somebody says, I'm going to prospect on Monday, and then I'm not going to prospect for the rest of the week. Prospect an hour a day. You'll be sharper, you'll have more, you'll be more attentive, and you'll expect more. Okay, that's the idea behind doing it. 3-4 hours into prospecting, you're tired, you're done. You just want to be over it. That's not where your results are coming from. So think about that over the next 30 days. Think about, what am I doing task over time consistently, that I'm showing up every day doing the exact same thing. Because success is funny. Okay? Success and failure have very, very, very similar descriptions. Definition of failure: doing the same thing over and over again, expecting a different result. Definition of success: doing the same thing over and over and over again, expecting the same result. And that's what we need to do every day. That's the definition of consistency. And that's how agents reform, regroup, and get back in and become the top producers overnight.
Just that one little hour a day. And that's what we're saying earlier, is that give it that little bit of time to try. And if you don't do that, you could be missing out on all your goals, everything that you set forth to do by getting this real estate license. And
That's right.
so we'll leave you with that. And so that's going to conclude our episode number 22. But
22.
Before I let you go, I just want to say, happy holidays to everybody. Happy New Year to everybody. Thanks to those that have been watching consistently the podcast. We're going to do a lot more of this next year. If you have some things that you want us to talk about, please share them in the comments. Be sure to like and subscribe. And as always, this is Amir Al-Kayad and
Vance Mizzi, and we will be back next month at the end of January to do a year-end wrap-up and give you guys all insight as to what last year truly had and what we can expect next year.
Sounds good. Thanks for tuning in, guys.
Thanks,